Hello, everyone. This is Matt Hoos with RAiNA Green, and I'm with Todd Kimmel. He's the chairperson for the board for RAiNA, which is the Rainscreen Association in North America. I saw an announcement on LinkedIn, and I wanted to get the scoop of what this was all about and why it's important to builders and also this segment of construction. So, Todd, thanks for joining us on RAiNA Green. Can you kind of tell us what RAiNA is and why you guys formed it?
Yeah, for sure. Well, first of all, thanks, Matt, for having me on. And yeah, the Rainscreen Association North America. Well, I think an entity kind of representing Rainscreen in the United States and Canada has been a long time coming. The principles of Rainscreen have been around for over a century per se, and we've been installing Rainscreen systems on our buildings for at least the last 3 or 4 decades. But there's never been any sort of group or entity that's really focused on the performance requirements for these types of systems. And what's challenging is that there's a lot of disparate groups that get involved with Rainscreen, right? So, there's manufacturers of cladding materials, high pressure laminates, metal panels, porcelain panels, fiber cements, all these types of products get involved. But they're not always responsible for the clip systems that are used to attach to their panels. There's insulation that obviously needs to be involved per energy code requirements. There's membranes clearly that help to manage the air and the moisture and the vapor control through our assemblies. And all of these products need to rely on one another for the successful assembly for the wall and the performance of the building long term. And so, I think there's been a big push to come together and to kind of join forces within the industry to bring these kind of different types of manufacturers together. But it doesn't end just with manufacturers, right? I mean, the success, as we all know, of any sort of building starts with the design process and comes through the construction process. So this is really not a manufacturers association. It's really meant to kind of bring in the design professionals, to bring in the contractors, to bring in the consultants, and to bring in everybody that's involved from soup to nuts, to really have a say on what is a rain screen, how it should perform, how do we measure performance, how do we ensure success. And one of the big drivers behind a lot of this is the changing energy codes, is the changing expectation of buildings in terms of performance, and the recognition that we are going to start moving towards more opaque walls to meet energy code requirements, and there's going to be a demand for a lot more systems such as Rainscreen that can really achieve high performance assemblies. And so rather than get behind the 8 ball, let's get out in front of it and let's really try to come together as an industry to set various standards and ensure that these types of systems are getting not only designed right, but installed right through the support of the manufacturers and everybody involved.
Got it. Well, it's funny when I saw the announcement, I was kind of surprised that there wasn't one already. It's like, oh, there isn't, because I mean, this is a huge component of the structure, and this is what all the cool architects and builders are talking about right now is, from the plywood all the way to the cladding, how moisture integrates with it, creating the thermal layers, looking at the perfect wall system, and especially with commercial, with the lawsuits and litigation that's going on, just creating some details for the industry to kind of go by to keep moisture and just some design details that everybody agrees with. So pretty impressive. So where does the rain screen start and stop as far as members in your organization? Obviously the cladding, we get that part, but does it go all the way down to the studs, plywood, sheathing? Like where is
really, I mean, we don't make any necessary limitations on who's involved, but I think, currently we have over 70 member companies as part of the association, all leading kind of manufacturers, from the cladding to the component systems, thermally broken, clips and rails, those types of manufacturers are involved. The membrane manufacturers are involved as well. Insulation, clearly, so from the manufacturer end, I think they make up the bulk of that category of member. But I think we've really benefited from the fact that we do have a number of design professionals that are also involved, even on the board level, to help steer a lot of the conversations. We have representation from contractor groups, the Masonry Institute, the Carpenters Union, sheet metal workers. So we've got them involved as well. Then there's I mentioned architecture firms. Even the testing agencies, we've got a number of testing agencies also involved here because there's a benefit to them as we're developing new standards, that really showcase the value and really prove the performance of these systems. We're going to need people to be able to execute those tests. And so, we're trying to bring everybody in on the front side to ensure that the programs that we're developing are, basically visible to everyone, and everyone has a say on how they're put together, so that there's no challenges on the flip end, right? We really want this to be an industry-led association that's member-led to really create the proper standards moving forward.
And it looks like you're apparently open to new membership. I see the join RAiNA twice on here, so people do need to join if they want a seat at the table. So I was about to ask you, like, where do they go? It's like, well, it's right there. It's in blue. Click the button.
Yes.
I'm assuming there's an application behind that button, so they could send it over, and then you guys can vet them to add them to the.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, we're very proud to have had the response already in terms of over 70 members within the first calendar year. We've had over 75 meetings so far this year. We've put in over 1,200 man hours of sweat energy into our committees. So it is an active association, right? So this isn't something. You could always come in and just be a member and pay money to support our cause. But the bulk of the membership is really putting sweat into the committee work, right? So right now, we have 6 standing committees that include Building Codes Committee, a RAiNscreen Performance Committee, Marketing and Outreach Committee, a Residential Committee, an Education and Training Committee, and I might have missed one. I'll have to think about it. But we're all working. Oh, Definitions Committee. I can't forget definitions, right? So like that's been the most difficult but entertaining community to be part of, just to kind of come to some standards on what does the word RAiNscreen mean? Is it one word? Is it 2 words? Just starting on a very rudimentary level to get the industry standard out there. And so I think the members realize what we're creating here, and that they're part of this kind of passionate group of people to help improve the industry, and they can be part of it now. And when it comes to a performance standpoint, we're talking about things like fire performance. We're talking things about, obviously, you mentioned moisture, rain performance. That's kind of the basis for who we are and what we do. But even moving beyond that, as we're looking at thermal performance, as energy codes are increasing. We're looking at acoustics performance and recognizing the importance of acoustics in our built environment. And all these kind of components that kind of dovetail together. So there's a lot of things to be discussed on that end. And then as we start to develop our programs and we start to develop white papers and standards through our performance committee, we also need to be able to kind of educate the market, and that education comes not only on the design front, but we see the long-term goal of designing construction professionals, getting trainings put together, and that really aligns with our I would say our 2030 vision. And we're taking steps to that every day. So it's been exciting, and we hope to get more and more people involved as the days go by.
Well, it's a very important component. It's a very important assembly on the structure. So for the student that's just trying to learn all about this and figure out, like, how do I even start with this? It sounds like it's a great association to come to get the information, to get the white papers. I notice you have some events up there as well. So are you guys creating curriculum, webinars, and things like that as part of the next few years?
Yeah, so we are working on that. Our education and training committee is on top of that as far as developing some baseline education around it. We don't want to push the cart before the horse, right? So we are working through our performance committee to kind of come to consensus on some of the things that we want to include in that education. Right now, a lot of the events are kind of where we're going to be, right? And where you can find RAiNA as far as talking or speaking opportunities. We're working right now with a number of different industry entities, from CSI to the Metal Construction Association, to some of the other industry groups, to start, really in 2021, making ourselves a little bit more visible in the community and kind of showcasing who we are and what we're doing.
I appreciate that. And you don't have to disclose this, but like what percentage of those 1,200 hours was dedicated to deciding if it was going to be one or two words for rain screen?
Probably about 600 hours. No, that was, like I said, the definitions committee, um, it's one of our most populated committees. It's one of the most kind of, involved at this juncture. And at some point, the definitions committee is going to go away, right? We're going to have all the definitions
Yeah.
we need, but starting with the baseline, and it's a lesson in semantics. It's something that I never thought I would be part of, but I'm glad to be involved in that particular committee. I'm not involved in all the committees.
Hmm.
But you get a lot of smart people in the room. You get a lot of people with different perceptions, and you start to really realize what every word means when you start to put a definition together. And it's a good thing to be part of.
Well, even I know weather resistant barriers are part of rain screens, and I know even that sector of the rain screen assembly are trying to get that phrase changed and look at different definitions for even within the sub sector. So that's
Yeah.
I'm curious to see how all this evolves. And and this, I hate to say it, but this is almost, I wouldn't say a new topic, but it's almost like a new topic where people are aware of and actually looking at advanced systems to keep the water and moisture under control,
Well, and
where
I
it has
think,
been issues in the past.
yeah, and I think, your point before is that you're surprised that something hasn't existed. And I would say that, there are a number of groups out there that represent different components within the rain screen, right? There is an Air Barrier Association of America that really handles the air
Hmm.
barriers and the water resistant barriers as a material or as a system in and of itself. And so we're not out there to reinvent any wheels, right? So like we've set a memorandum of understanding with the Air Barrier Association, and so a lot of their members are our members, and so
That's
when we
cool.
get into our performance work, we're not doing that work, in our own silo. We're working with them and trying to leverage as much as they can with us, and vice versa. And so we're looking to partner with other associations as well, that have done some testing or standards, and try to come to a level of consensus. So, this is very industry focused. It's very collaborative, and it needs to be in order for it to be successful. But it's really trying to bring all those different groups that are already out there doing what they do best, and also bringing them together and to kind of merge them into a group that can really, again, better the industry from the design all the way through to the construction of these types of assemblies. And it's not specific to commercial. I mean, our focus, much of our focus is on commercial, but we do also have a residential rain screen committee
Okay.
that handles things from, just more baseline rain screen assemblies to even stucco and stone veneers over type rain screen type components, and kind of
Hmm.
looking at the principles of that, which is a big thing that we need to think about moving forward, particularly in specific climates that really can struggle with moisture issues if their
Absolutely.
assemblies aren't done properly. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, because yeah, I mean, how moisture moves through the assembly is different in different climate zones, and um, especially with some of the webinars that we've seen from your parent company, Rockwool. It's just I was on a webinar yesterday where a guy in Minnesota and a guy in Florida were kind of at odds with like where uh, that whether it's going to be permeable, impermeable, like do I put and what kind of materials go up depending on where it is. So it's good that you guys are having the discussion. And I think what's important too, that you are talking to the Air Barrier Association, because their air barriers only work until like somebody starts poking holes in it and putting their assemblies on top of it, and then the warranty goes away. And then like, okay, who's responsible at that point when there's litigation? So if the manufacturers get together, work out some of these details, and it's like, hey, here are the 5 or 10 layers that we're dealing with, and this is how we can play together nicely, and even co-develop some different details. That's good for the industry. It's good for everybody.
You're spot on, and I think that's a big focus for our performance committee. And I think the recognition that there's anxiety around open joints, like a lot of design professionals and construction professionals, in many areas of the country are not used to using open joint cladding and allowing water to penetrate through, per se, the cladding side of it. And then obviously even behind that, you're needing to penetrate the membranes with the clips, right? And trying to manage, the positive effects of ventilation, convection, and drainage. And then, what is the limitation on penetration through membranes? How do you seal those penetrations? And what is the risk if you have a few penetrations and some moisture gets back there? And so, our performance committee, who's, led by Graham Finch of RDH Consulting and David Markman from Morrison Hertzfeld, two kind of leading organizations to create the baseline for some of these principles is really critical, right? And we've got the leading manufacturers of all these components that are part of the table there helping to develop these things. So, what we see coming out of this is going to be a pretty watertight, performance standard, hopefully that people can trust and have faith in. And that's kind of the at the end of the day, this is a very science-based association as well. And this is going to be based on real world science and the participation of everybody that's involved. So, yeah.
And so RAiNscreen, we're limiting ourselves to the walls. You're not dealing with the foundation water or the roof, correct?
Currently, yeah. I'm on the board of directors. I mean, we haven't defined all that. I think, what's the difference between a wall and a roof? At what, once it becomes slightly off 90 degrees, is it a roof? Some would say yes. And so, but I mean, with that being said, once you get the slightest pitch, it's a different principle from gravity and moisture and different things I need to apply. So it's not to say that we're not going to touch that, but we might just need to look at that a little bit differently. I would say once you get to below grade, that's probably out of our jurisdiction, but I think there is going to be a merger of kind of slope roof / walls. I think Dr. John Straub likes to call them woofs, WOOF. And so, we'll see where that all leads, but, we're trying to take it one step at a time. What's been interesting is, and even our executive director was mentioning that we're within the first year already acting like we're a 30-year-old company or association in terms of what we're trying to achieve, which is great in terms of the activity, but we also don't want to get ahead of ourselves. And I think we need to really, take it one step at a time. We want to make good progress, but we also don't want to overcommit and underproduce, and we want to do things the right way. So that's something that we're also working through in terms of how we manage.
No, I was gonna say, like, what do you guys need right now? Are you looking for more members, more committee members? Are you looking for more organizations to join? Do you pretty much want anyone that has a cladding to be part of this, just so they can be educated? I mean, what are you looking at right now?
Anyone that's really serious in working within the RAiNscreen market, I think it would be really beneficial to have them involved. I think this is the time for them to get their input in, and we want to make sure that what we're developing is unilaterally accepted by everybody that's going to join us in the future as well, right? So this is the time to really kind of get your voice in. I think we're going to do a pretty good job regardless, and I think people will respect that. I think that we again, while we probably are a more manufacturer heavy association as it currently stands, the long-term, kind of growth here is really with the design profession and with the contractor profession, in terms of getting these things right. And I think, we could always deal with having more design professionals involved, because they're the ones that are having to deal with the challenges on the front side, and certainly getting more contractors involved, because they're the ones that are involved on the end side. So, my call out here is trying to get more of them involved, but certainly that's not to limit others from calling us or clicking on the join RAiNA button and trying to participate and be involved.
Well, it sounds like anybody who's passionate about this and wants to make buildings better is welcome at this point, because you're just trying to work through all these details, definitions, deep standards, and figure out how to do this. Well, I really do appreciate your time, Todd, and everyone. I've got Todd's information and a link to this website in the description below, so you can contact them, join them, and see what they are doing and moving forward. All right, thanks again, Todd.
Thanks, everyone.